Kymani leaned forward, his gaze unwavering. Then you show them why those moments became the stepping stones. You're not what's behind you, you're what's ahead. A shiver ran down her spine, a blend of fear and thrill, warmth gathering in the space between them. You make it sound so easy. Elysia smiled, though uncertainty lingered. Nothing's ever easy, Elysia. But we do it together, he replied, and the space between them felt dense, vibrant, a living thing caught between a heartbeat and a breath. She swallowed, words caught in her throat. Kymani's fingers brushed against hers, a fleeting yet deliberate contact, as if the world fell away for just a heartbeat. The connection thrummed with intensity, each pulse igniting an ache to bridge the distance. The air was thick with unspoken truths, and as their eyes locked again, the moment swelled. Time seemed to suspend. Kymani leaned closer, and Elysia held her breath, the world around them fading as the depth of their connection ignited. The warmth of his presence wrapped around her, like the first light of dawn breaking through after a long night. Elysia, he whispered, a low rumble, imbued with longing. Kymani. The rest of her words evaporated as he closed the distance, brushing his lips softly against hers. A gentle exploration turned electric. Her heart raced as his kiss deepened, infusing the moment with a fervor that entwined their longing and fears. Then, the door swung open, jolting them apart as a colleague entered with a stack of paperwork, oblivious to the charged atmosphere. Amy, one of Elysia's interns, eyed them with a cheeky grin. Sorry to interrupt the moment, but we have a meeting, right? I definitely need that cupcake now, Kymani quipped, an eyebrow raised at Elysia as that intimate spark turned to laughter, wrapping their private moment in a cloak of humor. Elysia chuckled, shaking her head. Yes, very important business happening here. Let's get back to it. And as they resumed, there was a new dawn in the air, one that promised resilience and the blooming of something beautifully complicated. Scene 22, Temptations and Trials. The rain fell in sheets, each drop a chorus of discontent, plunging the city into a haze of grays and blues. Elysia leaned against the cool glass of her office window, the view blurred but the tension in the room sharply defined. A low rumble of thunder punctuated the moment as she glanced over at Kymani, who was pacing near her desk, his thoughts as tempestuous as the storm outside. Tell me again how this will help us, Elysia asked, her voice taut with frustration. Bringing your past back into this mess is about as smart as dancing in the rain with a lightning rod. Kymani stopped, his dark eyes locking onto hers with a gravity that made the air crackle. These are my demons, Elysia, he replied, his voice low and steady, but they're not just mine anymore. If I don't face them, they'll come for you too. I can't let that happen. Elysia crossed her arms, her heart clenched in a mix of admiration and exasperation. I didn't ask for a hero, Kymani. I just need a partner, someone who won't bail when things get tough. She cast a glance at the storm, feeling its intensity reflect her tumultuous thoughts. I'm not bailing, he insisted, stepping closer, his presence engulfing her. I'm doing this so we can hold our ground against everything, old enemies, new rivals. Together. Together, she echoed, the word tasting foreign yet intoxicating. She felt the ache of longing nesting in her veins, pulling her toward him as if the distance between them was an insurmountable chasm that only him could fill. Then the door swung open with a sharp creak, interrupting their moment. Standing there, drenched and dramatic as ever, was Tamara, Elysia's childhood friend and the last person they needed right now. Did I hear old demons? You two in horror movie territory, or are we calling in the exorcist? She quipped, raising an eyebrow with a playful smirk. Elysia groaned, turning her attention to Tamara, the comic relief she didn't know she needed. What are you doing here? Isn't it like pouring cats and dogs out there? Tamara rolled her eyes. As if I'd let a little rain stop me from getting the scoop on why my best friend is acting all mysterious. You holding a seance to summon Kymani's exes, or just trying to spice things up in the office? Kymani scoffed, but couldn't help a grin at Tamara's antics. Don't worry, your secrets are safe with me. I'm not about to set off any ghostly fires, he said, settling back into his confident demeanor, though the tension with Elysia lingered in the air like the scent of wet earth. Elysia felt her cheeks heat with a mix of embarrassment and amused irritation. Tamara, I promise there's nothing supernatural happening here, just Kymani's annoying habit of complicating everything. You love it, Kymani teased, stepping within inches of her, the warmth radiating between them undeniable and restless. A flash of lightning illuminated his strong features, and Elysia caught her breath, feeling both the storm outside and the one brewing in her chest. Yeah, it's a beautiful mess, Tamara replied, bouncing on the balls of her feet, sensing the electric tension. So, spill the beans, handsome. What's lurking in the shadows? Old flames, or just some cranky business rivals? Kymani finally let out a reluctant chuckle, shaking his head. Nothing I can't handle. Just need to keep our heads above the clouds for a little longer. Is that what we're calling it? Elysia replied, a playful smile creeping onto her lips. The heat between them pulsed, rising like steam from the wet streets beyond. Is your heart racing from fear or simply my unstoppable charm? Kymani asked, his eyes twinkling with mischief, igniting a playful banter that made her heart skip. Oh, it's definitely the fear, she laughed, but her body swayed closer to him, the walls inching down as the air separated them. In that moment, the thunder roared again, echoing the wild gallop of her heart, every pulse a reminder of their precarious dance between danger and desire. Elysia leaned in, her breath mingling with the warmth radiating from him. Just promise me it's not too late when the storm breaks. Elysia, he murmured, inching closer. With me, storms can only bring us closer. She could hardly believe the truth of his words as their lips hovered tantalizingly, the world outside fading into a mere whisper of the chaos within. And for that heartbeat, everything else seemed to dissolve. Scene 23. Winds of Change. Elysia Ndidi stood in the expansive kitchen of her sleek downtown loft, the scent of freshly brewed coffee mingling with hints of vanilla and cinnamon lingering from the breakfast she had set out. The morning sun streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating the room and casting playful shadows that danced on the polished marble countertops. She poured herself a cup, letting the steam warm her hands as she tried to sink into the normalcy of the moment. But the weight of recent events hung in the air like a storm cloud. Kymani Taragon leaned against the counter, arms folded, his dark eyes fixed on her with a mixture of admiration and worry. You make coffee like a master artist, you know that? He said, his voice smooth, laced with an easy charm that buoyed her spirits, even in this tempest. Elysia chuckled softly, but it didn't reach her eyes. I think that's just a euphemism for caffeine addiction, she replied, stirring in a splash of almond milk. But I appreciate the encouragement. As he walked closer, she felt the familiar rush of electricity between them, the potent cocktail of attraction and the heavy tension born from unspoken truths. But today, in his presence, other emotions bubbled beneath the surface. Reaching for the kettle, Kymani asked, So what's the plan for today? We can't let our morning coffee be the highlight of the week. Elysia set the milk aside and sighed, finally turning to him. Actually, I've been thinking, have you spoken to Sasha lately? She watched his expression shift from playful to guarded. Why? I thought we were done with that chapter, he replied, dryness creeping into his tone. She's been asking about you, Kymani, Elysia continued, sensing the tension tightening between them. And there's something about our connection that seems to trouble her. Kymani's brow furrowed. Trouble isn't the word I would use, more like explosive intrigue, he joked, only partially concealing the strain behind his smile. But come on, Elysia, do we really need to involve her? Elysia took a sip of her coffee, her gaze drifting off to the bustling city below. Maybe we do. I mean, it's complicated, isn't it? We both know that. It's not just about us. She met his eyes, grounding their exchange in vulnerability. It's about how the world sees us, how being together places a giant target on our backs. Kymani pushed off the counter and approached her, standing close enough for the warmth of his body to envelop her. I think they're the ones who need to rearrange their thinking. We can hold our own, couldn't we? His voice dropped to a low, soothing timbre, making her heart race. Elysia opened her mouth to respond, but the impending argument, an emotional wrestling match of thoughts, strangled her response. But if we're pulled in different directions, Kymani, what then? I can't let this ruin what I've built. You have no idea how far I've come. Is that what you're afraid of? Losing what you've built? Kymani's words were laced with a quiet desperation that struck a chord deep within her. Or is it about losing me? Elysia blinked, struggling to find a foothold in the rapid current of emotions swirling around them. It's always been about being alone, Kymani. That fear. Her voice faltered, but determination filled her gaze. You're not just any distraction. You're the fire that could burn it all down. Elysia, he interjected, moving even closer until the color of her coffee mingled with the intensity of his look. What if I don't care about the fire? What if I want to face everything with you, together? The softness in his tone contrasted sharply with the vibrant strength brimming beneath. She took a breath, closing the distance further. This is dangerous territory, you know. We could lose everything. The world faded, leaving just the two of them suspended in the tension, raw and candid. Maybe we forge something new, Kymani whispered, brushing his fingers against hers, their connection sparking a warmth she hadn't anticipated, a life that can withstand storms. Their breaths mingled like mingled echoes of possibility, hope blossoming in the fragility of their moment. Just as their lips were on the verge of touching, the shrill ring of Elysia's phone shattered the intimacy, pulling her back into reality. The moment fled, leaving them both panting, not for breath, but for what could have been. Darn it, she murmured, snatching her phone off the counter. It's Sasha. Kymani stepped back, his posture shifting from passion-laden vulnerability to something more guarded. You should answer. Just be honest with her. That's all she wants. Elysia nodded, conflicted but resolute. Yeah, right? Honesty? How hard can that be? Let me know if you need backup, Kymani replied, a half-smile teasing at the corners of his mouth. You know I'm good with dragons. She chuckled despite herself, mixing tension with laughter. As she answered the call, she realized that perhaps love didn't just conquer all. Sometimes it could become the very catalyst for storms to weather together. Scene 24, Under the Surface. The air crackled with tension as a dramatic summer storm rolled in, drumming against the windows of Elysia's office. Lightning flickered, momentarily illuminating her chaotic surroundings, stacked papers, half-finished blueprints, and her favorite coffee mug, still half full and forgotten. Elysia Ndidi sat on the edge of her desk, a resolute frown etched across her brow as she stared into the distance. The weight of her doubts tangled with the storm outside, creating a cacophony of emotions. Kymani Taragon leaned against the doorframe, a commanding yet relaxed presence in his tailored dark jacket, the way the fabric draped across him enhancing his allure. He always seemed to materialize when she needed him most, like a shadow she didn't want to dissolve. You know, he began, his voice a low rumble edged with teasing, if you keep frowning like that, I might just have to charge you for emotional damage. Elysia's lips twitched, betraying her amusement despite the chaos in her mind. And how do you plan to collect? A fee in fresh pastries? Now you're talking, Kymani said, stepping closer, the scent of his spicy cologne weaving into the mix of rain-soaked air. French pastries with a side of that enigmatic smile of yours should suffice. She rolled her eyes, but a warmth crept into her heart. You're hopelessly charming for someone involved in corporate sabotage. Kymani straightened, that familiar spark returning to his dark eyes. You're the only one sabotaging anything here, Elysia. You're sabotaging your own potential with all this heavy thinking. Elysia crossed her arms, the tension in her shoulders folding into a defensive posture. There's a lot at stake. This isn't just about me, it's my company. And what's the cost of keeping all that obligation bottled up? You're not a machine, you know. Her gaze pierced through the storm. You make it sound so easy. Just forget the stakes, right? Not forget, prioritize. But right now, you seem like you're drowning, even with all that outward confidence. Elysia inhaled sharply, frustration seen and heard in the noise of the rain. You don't know half of it, Kymani. Just because you show up with those charming quips doesn't mean I'm ready to risk everything. Kymani's expression shifted, a flash of urgency flickering in his eyes. He stepped forward, the space between them diminishing until they were anchored merely by breaths. Then let me help you before it's too late. Help me? How? She asked, the weight of the world on her shoulders daunting her voice. Just be here. Let me in. His words lingered, wrapped in sincerity. The gravity of the moment shifted, each syllable falling like the rain soaking the world beyond the glass. Elysia hesitated, a feigned nonchalance crumbling under the brilliance of his gaze. You make it sound so simple. Sometimes simplicity is all we need to survive. He reached out, brushing a lock of hair behind her ear, fingers grazing her skin gently. The touch sent warmth flooding through her, disarming her defenses. Nothing feels simple with everything that's going on, she murmured, breath hitching ever so slightly. Then we'll simplify this. He slid closer, their breaths intermingling, the silken sound of rain enveloping them like a cloak. The storm outside mirrored the heartbeat racing between them. Kymani lowered his voice, imbuing it with a tender intensity. Let me protect you, Elysia. Not just from the chaos out there. He nodded toward the window where raindrops raced against the glass, but from your own fears. Before Elysia could respond, Kymani closed the gap entirely. With his hand still lingering at her cheek, his lips met hers, soft yet demanding, igniting a spark long buried under layers of ambition and apprehension. The kiss was a delicate yet fervent promise, a fusion of their identities shifting under the surface. She felt the world fade, drowning in the storm that filled the silence between them, a siren call masked beneath the thunder. Time stalled, the kiss drawing out like the storm's gentle embrace. Then, with one breath, Elysia pulled back, her forehead resting against his. This changes everything, doesn't it? His eyes darkened, their depths revealing the unwavering determination she had come to find thrilling yet terrifying. Only if you let it. Let's face the chaos together. The promise hung between them, resonating like the storm itself. As thunder rolled outside, Elysia considered the weight of their situation once more, and for the first time her heart urged her to embrace the storm within. Scene 25, Cheers and Jeers. The soft hum of chatter enveloped the expansive hall of the Monarch Apogee building. Twinkling lights danced from the chandeliers, casting a warm glow over the elegantly dressed guests. Elysia Ndidi stood at the bar, carefully balancing a flute of sparkling water, its bubbles racing to the surface in an exhilarating riot. She surveyed the crowd, her heartbeat a vibrant rhythm as she prepared to address the company that she had fought so hard to build. Now, who would have thought we'd make it this far? She mused softly to Kymani Taragon, who stood beside her, taller and commanding, like a silent sentinel. His eyes, dark and intense, danced with amusement. Kymani offered a low chuckle. "What's a little sabotage between friends?" he replied, his voice smooth like velvet. A teasing smile played on his lips, but Elysia could spot the shadows that sometimes flickered in his gaze, like clouds skimming a vibrant sky. True enough. Just one little scandal doesn't ruin everything, Elysia said, her eyes narrowing at an approaching group of executives from a rival firm. As long as you know how to handle it. Kymani raised an eyebrow, the corners of his mouth twitching with wicked humor. You mean like holding my ground against a legion of hungry wolves, or more like gracefully ignoring the embarrassing glares? Before Elysia could respond, a figure called out, slicing through the air like a serrated blade. Congratulations, Elysia. So glad to see you finally made that tower of yours stand. It was Miranda, the sharp-tongued marketing head from Hightower Enterprises, her smile a thin veneer over an undercurrent of malice. Thanks, Miranda. Elysia replied sweetly, the sharpness of the competition rolling off her back like water on a duck. I appreciate your support. Miranda laughed lightly, but her eyes remained cold. Support, darling. I'm just here for the show. Wouldn't want to miss a fight at the Colosseum, would we? Elysia held her breath, a flash of annoyance slipping through her composed exterior. No need for theatrics. We're all friends here, right? Of course. Miranda replied with a smirk that had malice masking itself in civility. Just remember that the show always goes on. Trying to brush the tension aside, Kymani leaned in closer, his warm breath brushing against Elysia's ear. Dance with me? It was a soft command that felt deliciously intimate amid the swarming discontent. Elysia hesitated, then nodded, grateful for his shield in the raucous environment. They moved to the center of the floor, where the music swelled, a vibrant blend of rhythm and exuberance. As they twirled, Kymani held her just a breath too tightly, a small whisper of protectiveness mixed in with the laughter. You're stronger than them, he said, his voice low, so only she could hear. Just remember that. The sea of onlookers faded away, the surrounding chaos blurring as Elysia melted into the moment, immersed in the sensation of his presence. I'm trying, she replied, their eyes locking in an electrifying dance of potential and vulnerability. Yet the mirth broke again. As they swayed, a sudden shout erupted from the crowd. You think this little party will distract everyone from how your company almost went under, Elysia? A voice spat the words bitterly, echoing off the high ceilings. Elysia glanced toward Finn, her current partner, who stood with his arms crossed, looking skeptical and unimpressed. His glare felt like ice, freezing the atmosphere. Step aside, spring flower, he continued, casting Kymani a dismissive glance. She's just caught in the middle of a well-crafted illusion. Elysia released Kymani, her heart racing. Finn, Save it. You're not fooling anyone, he interrupted, his voice steely. All this gloss and glitter won't hide the cracks. Kymani stepped forward, shielding Elysia instinctively. Why don't you provide constructive feedback instead of sabotage? It works wonders for growth, he taunted. Constructive feedback? Finn laughed, his bravado worn like a facade. More like you have to rescue her at every turn. Do you really think Elysia would survive without her knight in shining armor? Only if that knight stops trying to knock her down, Kymani countered, eyes flashing with fierce loyalty. Elysia felt a surge of strength pooling in her core as Finn's words hung like heavy fog around her. No more running. I can breathe without your scrutiny, Finn. I've fought hard for this, and I will stand my ground. So much bravado, he sneered, but something in her expression forced silence, if only for a brief moment. The stakes were rising, heavy and palpable. Elysia was no longer a pawn, but a force of her own. Kymani smiled slightly, a glint of admiration in his eyes. See? Now that's the Elysia I know. Just don't let your dreams drown in treachery. Finn's words dripped with derision, but they spurred her on, igniting an unquenchable fire within her. No more hiding, she said firmly, looking at Kymani with renewed determination. It's time to show them what we're capable of. Scene 26. Beneath the velvet ashes, Elysia stood in the cozy kitchen, sunlight streaming through the window, casting a warm glow on the rich, dark wood countertops. She stirred a mix of ingredients in a bowl, but her mind was a hive of thoughts, swirling, buzzing, yet mostly clouded. The smell of garlic and herbs filled the air, mingling with the faint sweetness of vanilla from the cake baking in the oven. She flicked a glance toward Kymani, who leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, watching her with a half-smile that made her pulse race. The secret to the perfect sauce is not just the ingredients, she said, attempting a lightness that felt precariously close to the surface of the emotional waters beneath. It's all about the intention you put in. Elysia's voice dripped with sincerity, but the way she clenched the wooden spoon betrayed her unresolved anxieties. Kymani pushed himself off the frame and stepped closer, his brow furrowing slightly, a contrast to the playful arch of his lips. "And what intention are you putting in?" he asked, his voice low, each word sharp and clear as he closed in on her space. His presence washed over her like the late afternoon sun, warming but also demanding. Instead of responding, Elysia met his gaze, the intensity sparking a familiar tension between them. "The best sauces need a little bit of time," she said, her voice softer now, pulsing with unspoken meanings. "And lots of patience." "Patience," Kymani echoed, leaning just a shade closer. "Something your heart seems to lack when it comes to love." It wasn't an accusation, it was a statement cloaked in concern, and yet it struck a chord one she didn't want him to hear. Elysia turned back to the bowl, pouring in a splash of olive oil that shimmered under the light. "I'm working on it," she replied, the corners of her lips barely twitching into a smile, even as her insides twisted. Like simmering pasta sauce, it requires watching, adjusting. She carefully monitored the pasta boiling on the stove, as if it could drown out the weight of his gaze. Kymani stepped behind her, close enough to whisper, "Simmering too low." He paused, his breath warm against her ear. "It just means you'll end up with a bland dish." His playful tone teased a smile from her, but a hint of unease clung like a shadow gliding behind her resolve. She turned, her eyes meeting his, a dance of ambition and longing. "What if I don't want bland? What if I want it all, Kymani?" The words slipped out, impulsively raw, a striking echo of her desires. "Then why do you hesitate?" His gaze darkened, concern etched into his strong features. "You must know I would never settle for anything less than extraordinary with you." The air seemed to tighten between them, buzzing with currents of possibility, like the quickening rhythm of her heartbeat against her ribs. Elysia swallowed, fighting the onset of vulnerability. Was it possible to take that leap into chaos? The overwhelming beauty of being cherished and seen? We have complications, outside forces, things we can't ignore. She folded her arms defensively, an instant barrier between them. He took a step closer, invading her fortress with his presence. Complications? Elysia, every moment we waste wondering what could go wrong, we lose a chance to feel what could be right. His voice deepened, laced with fervor, drawing her thoughts into an intensity she dared not question. She stared at him, wanting to believe, wanting to bridge the cruel chasm of doubt that lay anchored within her. But what if we crash? What if it all falls apart? Kymani's hand brushed against hers, a slight touch filled with intensity. The chill of her doubt began to thaw as an ember ignited within him. I'll catch you. His voice dropped to a whisper, rich and inviting, fueled with the promise of something indescribable. And then, for a heartbeat, the world around them melted away, the simmering sauce, the bubbling pot, even the sun-drenched kitchen, until only the space between them felt palpable. Her breath quickened, and the frail line separating fear and desire began to blur. "Do you trust me?" he asked, his eyes searching hers for an answer. Elysia leaned in ever so slightly, and all at once the distance closed. She found herself lost in the heat of the moment, the weight of the past, and the gravity of an uncertain future. Her lips brushed against his, igniting a fire as splendid as the fading day outside, a promise threaded with hope fading to the soft embrace of twilight. "Whatever happens, even if it all falls apart," she murmured against him, the kiss deepening, sending both of them into a world unclouded by fears. "Let's just make sure to savor it," Kymani replied, his voice fading to a whisper on her lips, both aware that whatever lay ahead, they would face it together. Scene 27. New Alliances. The boardroom was bathed in the early morning light, filtering through the floor-to-ceiling windows, creating patterns across the polished mahogany table. Elysia Ndidi sat straight-backed in her chair, cradling a steaming cup of cinnamon-spiced chai that wafted through the air like a warm embrace. The scent reminded her of quiet mornings in her grandmother's kitchen, sweet, comforting call, but with an undercurrent of uncertainty prickling at her like a distant storm. Across from her, Kymani Taragon leaned back in his chair, his deep voice breaking through the tension. "Partnerships are like chocolate and chili, Elysia. They sound foreign together, but the right balance brings out unexpected flavors." He flashed his trademark grin, a glimpse of charm that made her heart race, unsettling her nerves. "Are you saying I should start courting the competition?" Elysia quipped, her dark eyes sparkling with mischief as she fought to keep her expression light. Kymani's laughter echoed in the spacious room, a rich, resonant sound. "If that's what it takes to beat them at their own game, I'd suggest more than just a formal handshake," he said, his tone shifting, serious. "You need to show them who they're dealing with. This is about legacy, Elysia. We can't leave any doubt." The warmth of their cafe had faded with the formality of the discussion. The buzzing cityscape outside felt far removed from their bubbles of ambition. Elysia took a deep breath, trying to harness the thrill simmering just beneath the surface, a mix of potential and menace. "You're right," she conceded, glancing at her notes. "I do have several innovative minds in mind, if they can see the value in collaboration. Value they'll miss when they're too busy hoarding their own egos," Kymani interjected, sharp but with a playful glint in his eye. "Your approach needs flair. You're not asking for permission, you're offering them a golden ticket." He leaned in, his gaze never leaving hers, as electric as a thunderstorm gathering strength. Elysia felt her pulse quicken, the proximity firing a sense of boldness. "Okay, tell me, where do we start? What's the strategy?" She wanted to absorb every word he spoke, inhale the confidence he exuded as if it could infuse her own veins with courage. "How about we steal their spotlight during the trade fair next month?" Kymani suggested thoughtfully, tapping a pencil against his chin. "We host a pre-event gala exclusive, intimate. It'll set the stage for everything afterwards." Elysia raised an eyebrow, impressed but wary. "And you think they'll play nice at a venue where we control the narrative? Isn't that a bit risky?" "The sweetest fruits grow on the highest branches," Kymani said, his tone daring. The risk is being underestimated. You're the one with the vision, Elysia. They won't see it coming. Her breath caught, the intensity of his gaze igniting a smoldering embers of ambition within her. I've been underestimated my whole life, Kymani. The confession hung between them, dangerously personal, as she felt the walls she carefully built start to tremble. Then let's make sure they remember your name, he said, his voice dropping into a husky whisper, each word wrapping around her heart like a gentle tether. Partnerships, strategy, and a little spark of chaos, it's like chemistry. Elysia flashed a tentative smile, retreating behind professional walls. Just don't set anything on fire, okay? Every good idea needs to be grounded in reality, Kymani. He leaned closer, the scent of his cologne a blend of sandalwood and citrus enveloping her. Maybe reality needs a little more imagination. You have a penchant for drama, she teased, but the air between them was charged. It was a truth that shimmered with laughter and concealed vulnerability, a connection that danced just outside the borders of professional ambition. Only when the stakes are high, Kymani shot back, feigning innocence with a devilish glint in his eyes. And here, they are higher than you think. A soft knock at the door interrupted their banter as Tara, Elysia's assistant, discreetly entered, juggling files and the faint scent of her floral perfume clashing with the rich musk of the room. Sorry to interrupt, she said, glancing apologetically. Elysia smiled, grateful for the reprieve, but also reluctant to break the moment with Kymani. What's up, Tara? Just confirming your meetings for the week, Tara replied, and then she paused, her eyes flicking between the two of them, sensing an unspoken current. You two look like you're strategizing world domination over there. Oh, please, I'd settle for a solid partnership, Elysia shot back, her heart still racing, a pulse that wouldn't relent. Kymani raised a brow, his expression both serious and teasing. And because I plan to handle that, you're looking at a strong ally here. Elysia smirked and glanced back at Kymani, their chemistry unspoken yet insistent. Then let's get to work. With a nod of agreement, they both leaned in, the stakes rising yet again, and the world beyond their walls faded into a distant memory. Scene 28, Crossfire of Emotions. The twilight cast shimmering hues of orange and lavender across Elysia Ndidi's expansive office, a sleek space punctuated by floor-to-ceiling windows. The city skyline loomed like a jagged crown against the dimming sky, but inside, it felt like a war zone. The clatter of keyboards and the low murmur of phone calls faded as Elysia slammed down a folder onto her mahogany desk, the sound echoing like gunfire in her high-stakes world. Kymani Taragon leaned against the wall, arms crossed, his dark eyes piercing through the tension that coiled around them like a serpent. You can't keep doing this, Elysia. They're coming for you, and you know it. Don't patronize me, Kymani, she snapped, her voice laced with the brittle tension of a woman on the brink of unraveling. I've dealt with worse. If you think I'm going to back down now, you might want to consider backing down, he said, his voice calm, almost soothing, yet packed with an unyielding intensity. These aren't just petty tricks, it's sabotage, and it's escalating. Elysia turned away, gripping the edge of her desk. I need to stand my ground. If I don't fight, what's the point? And if you don't survive? Kymani shot back, his voice heating like kindling. He stepped closer, allowing the space between them to shrink. I can fix this. I have to protect you. Is this because of your dark past? She asked. The words lingered in the air, charged with unspoken truths. I don't need a protector. I need a partner. Well, tough luck, he replied sharply. I'm not exactly in the business of making partners. Kymani raked a hand through his hair, frustration flexing in his posture. You don't see the whole picture, do you? I won't let them hurt you, even if that means sticking my neck out. Silence enveloped them, heavy and palpable, each heartbeat drumming in their ears. Elysia turned back to him, heart racing. Kymani, I appreciate your concern, but you don't understand what you're asking me to give up. I built this from the ground up. This is more than just business for me. Then let me help you, he implored, the fierce passion in his tone softening, revealing an undercurrent of vulnerability. You don't have to do this alone. Elysia inhaled sharply, the air thick with anxiety and an unyielding chemistry that crackled between their bodies. You could lose everything too, you know. You've made powerful enemies. Kymani took a step closer, the gravity of their unspoken feelings pulling them together. And I'll risk it all if it means keeping you safe. His gaze held hers, deep and unfathomable. I wish you would stop being so noble all the time, she blurted, the words spilling out like an overcharged dam. It's infuriating, he chuckled, the sound warm and unexpectedly light amidst the chaos. Infuriating, huh? So you do find me charming? Charming is not the word I'd use. Elysia rolled her eyes, but the flicker of a smile played on her lips. You're more like a cat trying to save a drowning goldfish. I'll take that as a compliment, he said, his expression shifting to mock serious. And for the record, I'm not a cat. I'm more of a lion, strong, protective, with a hint of danger. Is that what you tell all the ladies? Elysia teased, tilting her head, and for a moment, the world outside blurred away. Only the ones with enormous potential, he shot back, his grin infectious. But then his demeanor shifted, the weight of their circumstances pulling him back to seriousness. You're serious about standing your ground. I get that. But don't let pride blind you to the very real threats out there. The tension pooled in the space between them, charged and electric, until Elysia dared to take a step closer, her heartbeat syncing with the pulse of the city outside. Then maybe you can't keep your secrets hidden forever. If you're in this with me, then show me everything. Kymani's breath hitched, and the intensity of their emotions crackled. And if my secrets tear us apart, only if we let them. She held his gaze, a promise shimmering in the shared space. He stepped even closer. Then let's make this a partnership worth fighting for. Her heart raced as she caught the moment on the brink of clarity, a choice made amid chaos. Let's, she finally said, the word heavy with the weight of possibilities, hope rising despite the darkness closing in. Scene 29. Secrets in the dark. The moon hung high in a sky strewn with diamonds, casting a silver glow over Kymani's balcony, where the night air carried a hint of jasmine and the faint hum of the city below. Elysia leaned against the wrought iron railing, the cool metal grounding her as she tried to banish the turmoil brewing inside. She took a deep breath, inhaling the sweet scent mingled with the distant sound of laughter from a nearby cafe. Tonight, though, that laughter felt miles away, swallowed up by the weight of hidden truths that crowded in the space between her and Kymani. His silhouette merged with the shadows, the way shadows worked around him, mysterious and captivating. Kymani stepped into the silver light, his deep brown skin gleaming like polished mahogany, a stark contrast to the rich navy of his tailored blazer. He seemed burdened, the light revealing only flashes of the storm inside, a furrowed brow here, a clenched jaw there. Do you always look this stunning while staring into the abyss? He quipped, a half smile playing on his lips, attempting to lighten the air thick with secrets. Elysia chuckled, the sound escaping like a small firework in the stillness. Only when I'm contemplating my life choices. You? Ah, same, he sighed, leaning against the railing beside her. But I keep coming back to you. Their eyes met, a charge between them like the crackling of static. Elysia's heart raced, fueled not just by his proximity, but by the brewing confrontation she could feel deep in her core. You don't have to keep coming back, Kymani. If you're looking for a distraction, I can help with that too. Distraction? He shifted, a playful glint in his eyes. What, you think I'm some desperate man chasing after you just to avoid my own shadows? Have you seen the views from this place? I'm clearly thriving. He motioned with a grand hand gesture toward the glittering skyline. Thriving, huh? Careful, or you'll end up a corporate cliché. She gave him a teasing look, but underneath the tension was thick, hiding her uncertainty. Kymani's expression softened, and he jumped into the deep end. Elysia, can we talk? About what? She felt her breath catch, a nervous flutter taking flight in her chest. About us. About everything. He searched her eyes as if trying to decode an ancient script. I might not have the ability to spin words like you do, but I lack the patience for playing games. I refuse to let you see me as just some walking distraction. Elysia's defenses lowered a notch, a wave of vulnerability washing over her. I appreciate the honesty, Kymani, but I don't know if I'm cut out for anything right now, she confessed, biting her quivering lip, a flicker of sadness breaking through her usual armor. There are pieces of my life that feel broken, and I don't know how to put them back together. Doesn't that scare you? Doesn't scare me. Challenges excite me, he replied, the intensity of his gaze pulling her in. The air thickened with something electric, a promise lacing his words. But let's be clear, what scares me is losing you without even trying. Losing me? You're acting like I could ever be yours to lose, she shot back, yet the thrill of the challenge played in her tone, a dance that wrapped around their conversation. I see someone with fire and ambition, someone who can look at the world and demand it be better, he said earnestly. And you think you're not worthy? She faltered, the strength of his belief catching her off guard, tearing through the fog of self-doubt that had clouded her vision. Kymani Taragon, he interrupted, his voice low and compelling. If there's one thing I know, it's that every flame needs fuel. You're mine, and I'm not going anywhere. Not now. The striking honesty unfurled the tension between them, and for a heartbeat, it was as if the world around them faded into silence. In that instant, Kymani took a step forward, his presence radiating heat as he brushed a lock of hair from her face, his fingers lingering against her skin for a moment too long. "Can I tell you a secret?" he asked, inches away, his voice a soft murmur that sent goosebumps racing across her arms. "Of course," she breathed, caught in the gravity of his gaze. "I think you might just be the answer to my chaos," he confessed, the air quivering with unspoken promises. And before she could process the depth of his sincerity, Kymani leaned in, the warmth of his breath igniting a flame in her chest. Their lips brushed, then molded together, the kiss electrifying and fragile, a delicate promise wrapped in fervor. It was as if the world tilted slightly on its axis, everything else fading into the background as they found solace in the warmth of each other's embrace. When they pulled back, breathless and wide-eyed, Elysia found herself bolstered by the hope blooming between them, a whisper of possibility amidst the chaos. "Maybe chaos isn't so bad after all," she murmured, a soft smile breaking across her face, as the moon above continued to shine brightly, illuminating their shared secrets. Scene 30. Rise and Fall. The soft hum of Elysia Ndidi's office filled the air, frayed edges of papers scattered like lost dreams across her polished mahogany desk. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee mingled with the faintest hint of lavender from the decorative candles on the windowsill, an ironic effort to calm her racing heartbeat amidst the storm brewing outside. She pressed her palms against the cool surface, her fingers trembling slightly, as if they were the only things anchoring her to reality. The walls felt like they were closing in, weighty with expectations and the suffocating fear of failure. Her meticulous plans for expansion had crumpled before her, the email flashes of rejection echoing in her mind like haunting whispers. "Elysia?" Kymani Taragon's voice sliced through the tense atmosphere. He stood in the doorway, tall and commanding, with an urgency about him that paralleled the tempest raging in her heart. His dark eyes, brimming with concern, widened as he entered, taking in the chaos of her workspace. "I don't want to talk about it." She swallowed, but the lump lodged in her throat felt as immovable as the weight of the world pressing down on her shoulders. Too bad. Kymani crossed the threshold, stepping into the warm glow of the office as his presence warmed the very air around them. "Because I'm not here for a casual chat." "Then why are you here?" she snapped, half-heartedly stifling the tremor in her voice, layered with a bitterness that surprised even her. "To tell me how I failed at yet another corporate pitch? Or is it to remind me of all the reasons someone like me shouldn't be running a business at all?" He stepped closer, the space between them collapsing, charged with unspoken desires and unresolved tension. "You're not failing," he insisted, his voice low and steady, radiating the fierce loyalty that she had barely begun to understand. "But if you keep locking yourself away—" "Maybe it wouldn't hurt so much if I could just get one break," she interrupted, the words escaping with the heat of frustration. "It all feels like a parade of disappointment, Kymani." Kymani's gaze softened, revealing a vulnerability she seldom saw. "If it feels like that, then you need to lean on someone for support. Let me help you." "I don't need your help." Defiance dripped from every word, and yet, beneath her bravado, she felt that familiar tugging at her heart, the longing for his shelter, for his strength. "Okay, how about this?" he said, the corners of his mouth twitching into a playful grin that made her spirit flutter. "We make a deal. I'll help you get back on your feet, and you just keep being the badass businesswoman I know you are. No pressure, just let me be your partner. Her breath caught at the word. Partnership. It sounded so simple, yet so intimate. Almost romantic. This isn't an offer for a date, is it? She tried to keep her tone light, but insecurity crept into her voice like an uninvited guest. Are you interested? He arched an eyebrow, a teasing spark igniting in the depths of his dark eyes, making the air thicker with tension. I make a mean lasagna. Honestly, I don't know how good it would be if it's anything like your dance moves. She laughed, an unfamiliar sound spilling forth as it cut through the darkness, threatening to swallow her whole. A mischievous sparkle lit Kymani's expression as he stepped closer, their breaths mingling, creating an intoxicating haze. You saying my moves weren't the highlight of the party? You need to recalibrate your standards, Elysia. What I need, she said, her heart racing, is for you to take things seriously. The stakes are higher than just our dance moves. Right, he nodded, shifting as if the weight of her gaze sparked a realization. So let's raise the stakes. Together. If I'm saving your business and you're saving me from, well, whatever I'm running from, we've got a solid plan. Their laughter hung in the air, piercing through her worries. It felt liberating amidst her chaos. Is deals among partners the only thing you're good at? Elysia challenged playfully, but beneath her words lay a flicker of hope. Hey, I'm multi-talented, woman, he replied, settling into an easier rhythm, the tension easing as if both knew they were on the brink of something monumental. But seriously, let me shoulder some of this weight with you. Whatever it takes, we'll fight against whatever is threatening you, together. Elysia held his gaze, seeking reassurance in the depth of his promise. Risk and vulnerability lingered thickly in the air, setting a new course for both of them. Together, then, she whispered, heart fluttering, her resolve beginning to mend. What began as a partnership felt dangerously close to something much more profound, perhaps even dangerous, yet thrilling all at once. She stepped closer, courage blooming within her chest. And just so we're clear, she said, a playful smile creeping onto her lips, I expect pizza, not lasagna. That's a deal I can live with. Kymani chuckled, their playful banter folding against the weight of their burgeoning connection. Pizza it is, but I can't promise I won't take a victory lap after a successful deal. Just don't make a fool of yourself. Last thing I need is for you to steal my spotlight. She grinned, the tension evaporating, leaving just a spark of possibility simmering between them. Don't worry, I'll save the ultimate moves for our celebrations. Kymani's eyes glinted with mischief, the moment becoming a precious touchstone in the chaos threatening to engulf them both. And with that promise lingering, a hint of warmth blossomed in both their hearts, flickering against the shadows that loomed closer. Scene 31. Overcoming the odds. The dim light of the conference room flickered as storm clouds brewed outside, darkening the windows and casting an ominous hue across the gleaming mahogany table. Elysia Ndidi stood at the head of the table, her fingers gripping the edge tightly. The tension in the room lay thick, almost palpable. Her team sat with furrowed brows and slumped shoulders, reflecting the uncertainty swirling in their minds. All right, everyone, Elysia began, forcing a smile that felt foreign. I know this week has been challenging. Challenging? Ryan scoffed, his voice dripping with sarcasm. That's one way to describe a corporate sabotage. Do we even know if there's a way out of this? Ryan? Elysia's tone sharpened. I appreciate your candor, but we all need to rally together. She scanned their faces, her heart racing as the stress of leadership pricked at her confidence. Outside, the wind howled, echoing the turmoil inside her. Jasmine, her sharp-witted marketing guru, raised an eyebrow, her arms crossed. You mean rallying to your rescue? You've got a whole mob in your corner, Elysia. We don't want to end up as collateral damage. Charming, Kymani Taragon said, stepping into the room at that moment, a calm presence amidst the brewing storm. His dark eyes scanned the team, softening when they landed on Elysia, offering a silent assurance. But she's right. We either sink together or swim. Right, Elysia hissed, her voice barely above a whisper but bursting with resolve. But I refuse to let this company drown because of a few cowardly attacks. The rain began to patter on the window, rhythmic and relentless, as if echoing her determination. Let's get creative. Let's fight back. What do you suggest? Ryan frowned, the doubt still evident in his posture. There's a gala next week. We paint it as a launch for our new initiative, invite the press, and turn the negative into a golden opportunity, Elysia declared with fervor, feeling her blood rush with excitement. We can showcase our resilience. Jasmine's skepticism morphed into intrigue. And risk having our competitors in attendance? Brilliant. Would you prefer to let them knock us down? Elysia shot back, her voice rising. We don't have the luxury of hiding behind closed doors. We need to keep moving forward. The air was thick as Kymani stepped closer, catching Elysia's gaze. He could see the fire igniting within her, the flicker of confidence that hinted at the woman who could lead them through the storm. There it is, he murmured, barely loud enough for her to hear. That's the spirit. Then let's do it, she replied, her conviction sharpening as the storm outside intensified. We move fast, we move smart, and we take the narrative. I want each of you to brainstorm ideas for our pitch. Pitch to who? The very people sabotaging us? Ryan folded his arms tighter, frustration brimming.